Every spring, a stream of fragrances of the land of Mehedinți and songs of the living beings that come alive again rise and blend in the air like in a fairy tale realm. It is said that here, in the fields of Clint's, God slammed Lucifer down after building a bridge which the fallen angel had tried to ruin it. In his rage, while tumbling down towards the Zaton water, the devil clung with his claws on the ground, pulling out the stones which today bear witness of the terrible clash. The steep rocky walls of the Danube hollows come to life. A unique plant in the world called the hollow's tulip lives only here, being on the list of the protected species by the Berner Convention. Another legend says about this flower with sunlight-colored petals that it might stand for the endless tears of a little girl that got lost through the hollow's chasms. The miracle of spring in Mehedinți lasts beyond the rocky walls of the hollows. There is a risk of losing track of time in the lilac wood of Ponoare. The flowers, bursting with fragrant sap, envelop the gentle hills of the Mehedinți plateau with the most genuine scent of spring. Perhaps not by chance, God has created his own bridge at the edge of this forest. Also here you can go inside the limestone depths of the earth, skillfully carved by the Zaton water when the lake rarely overflows and the water flows down under the God's bridge. This is the only natural functional bridge in Europe, while the amazing stories of Mehedinți only begin to come to life now. Endless carpets of multicolored flowers abound at the beginning of each summer on the cool bottom of the valleys, such as the Baluța gorges. Summers, when the land is scorched by heat, are unknown in Mehedinți. Walking on the sinuous trails of the woods of Mehedinți, we have already reached full summer. The coolness and the whiff of the shady forests suddenly wipe out the stifling heat which is specific to the plain. The hollows, lit by the golden light of the morning, open the gate towards the imposing carved image of the Dacian king Decibel, the largest stone sculpture in Europe. Not far from here, going upstream on the swift waters of the Danube, flowing between narrow walls, we find Veteran Cave, an old border military fort. The stage and theatre of some bloody battles that wrote the history of these places. Perhaps the most priceless treasure of Mehedinți is represented by the customs and traditions, unchanged by modern times. Mehedinți can rightfully be called an outdoor museum. In Beletina Glade, life has another rhythm, unknown to us, preserved unaltered by hundreds or even thousands of years. Everything seems to be frozen in time, like the tradition of making cheese. The milk is warmed on a bonfire, and the curd is drained in a gauze sieve. Everything has a particular taste and smell, which we rediscover only now. Almost void of industry that pollutes the air and poisons the field flowers, the tradition of beekeeping could be preserved in Mehedinți. An old occupation whose harvest tastes of acacia and wildflowers is on the point of rebirth, full of life and more optimistic than ever. On a mended fire by the leather bellows, the iron starts to sizzle, waiting to be given a new form. It will not give way, it is obstinate, but the blacksmith's hammer ultimately softens its natural reluctance. On the blacksmith's anvil of his Verna village, the glowing metal can take any shape. It is skill and craft, it's joy. Somewhere in the outskirts of the village, the needle stitches the cloth in the right place. The folk art sewing is difficult to learn and needs patience, but it is passed with love to those wishing to continue this tradition. Held like a baby, the piece of clay made for the workshop, where something new will come out of it. Not even the potter of Nuactesha village, as we found out from him that the clay itself tells us what it wishes to become. The chapped fingers by time and kneading the rough clay only lead to the shape the clay wishes to take. So they say. The fire comes to finish the work and burn the evil in it, and to give a long life to the pot. Hidden somewhere in a dead end of the Green Valley, near Selishta village, there is one of the last functional water mills in Mehedinți. Sometimes a fascinating ritual takes place between the wooden walls, which are over 100 years old. A small brook moves two large stones, which grind under their weight one more of the untold stories of these places so far. There are still families in Mehedinți where passing the folk crafts over the generations is a duty for those who know them. Maybe this explains the fact that wool spinning, carpet weaving, or wood carving continue to exist here as lively as ever. More such crafts go on coexisting under the same roof on a family in Bratilov village. You can see here how a tow of wool changes into a thin and delicate thread, which is spun, enters the loom, and turns into a wonderfully colored carpet. The elders are reluctant to let these crafts go, as they also inherited and learned them in their turn from their elders. The grape gathers under its velvet peel all the sunlight and sweetness of the land of Mehedinți. Picking the grapes remained for the small winemaker an occasion of real joy and, why not, feast. Those wishing having such experiences can find at any moment a native from Korkova village willing to show them how the wine was made in the region long ago. People sing, press the grapes, and tell stories. Only the moment of magic remains, which releases the sweet and flavored juice from the fine squeeze of the peel that envelops it. The richness of the land determines the appearance of great wine cellars that produce varieties of wines appreciated for their quality at a national and international level. Mehedinți region is not ruling the market with its quantity of wine, but it has a word to say when we speak about the quality of the Romanian wine. A suitable climate for viticulture, a hilly region that offers the vineyards a prolonged exposure to sun, a handful of people that change their profession into passion. It seems to be the ideal recipe for getting noble wines. If it's early in the morning, the weather is fine, and the gang is in a mood for adventure, then let adventure begin. The horsepower of the car is set free to run, to give its best on the steep slopes in search of the fairy tale landscapes. It is said that God pulled out the rock with which he built the Ponoare Bridge from here. Perhaps he couldn't have found a more beautiful place. We meet on these peaks the legend from the beginning of our journey. The colors of autumn in Mehedinți are difficult to forget, to describe them in words, and especially to equal. To the adrenaline fans wishing more than an off-road track can offer, Mehedinți gives them the opportunity to climb. The climbing routes of low and high difficulty can offer unsuspected satisfactions to the lovers of extreme sports. But autumn has its rules. Whatever you do, you cannot pass indifferently through the autumn landscape, almost fairy-like, which musters the plateau at this time of the year. Colors write poems by themselves, which will fill your soul with joy. The trees have laid soft carpets of rusty leaves over the paths which obey the footsteps noise of those entering these multicolored temples of silence. The way to the tablelands of Mehedinți passes by summits that gather clouds round them. Once up there, the tablelands can be seen in all their splendor and greatness. The route is sprinkled with wild stone edges, which spring out at every step from the short grass, whipped by the ridge winds. Nowhere is autumn more beautiful. We come down from the height and squall of the tableland to the quietude and mystery of the dark depth of Topolnica cave. The inflatable boats take us to the quiet and little-known world of the deep earth. The Topolnica waters pass the limestone corridor from one end to the other, creating a winding way like a lacustrine maze. When it rains, the silt brought by the torrent's water makes impossible underwater view. Nevertheless, the adventure can go on here practically endlessly. The day is nearing dusk, and a new surprise is waiting for those willing to taste the goodies of the land of Mehedinți. The wine of the small producer or of the established wine cellars plentifully splashes the barbecued lamb on the bonfire. How can an adventure end more remarkably than in the strong air of the night, round a campfire, where friends spin the yarn of remembrances? If there was something that united the Romanian people, split over the time by adverse empires and history, then that was faith. Stories about the alleged treasure of the Bruncovanus buried here made the Saint Voivod's monastery in Baia de Rama known everywhere. Located as if to guard over Orshova, St. Anna Monastery is renowned for the peace and spiritual purity of the place. A sensation you will experience as soon as you cross the threshold of the sanctuary. Erected by the monks between the mountains, the hermitage of Topolnica seemingly tries to hide away from the world. Time elapses here only between the endless hours of praying. Otherwise, the peace and silence, almost unearthly, that envelop the place are interrupted only by the sound of the bell. Vodica Monastery was built most probably around 1369 by the monk Nicodim, considered the protector of Oltenia. It was destroyed and rebuilt several times, the present-day monastery being a wonderful wooden construction placed quite near the ruins of the old sanctuary. Built in all likelihood around 1250, the medieval citadel of Severin was used as a checking point of the Iron Gates Pass. Restored and revaluated following an ample project of rehabilitation, the edifice is today an unequivocal landmark of the tourist map of Drobeta Turnu Severin. Emblematic for Severin is the sculpture of urban integration, the real dance of Bălăcița, the work of sculptor Constantin Lukács, considered a second Brâncuș of Romania. The kinetic fountain of Severin, as it is known by everybody, is both an attraction point in the city and an appreciated place for promenade. And not coincidentally, it was placed near the most important cultural edifice of the city, Theodore Costescu Palace. Gradually, winter takes over the mountains and gentle hills of Mehedinți, fully exerting its rights. The city, shrouded in the morning mist, reveals an architectural jewel, the Arts Castle. The former water castle of the city imposingly rules over the settlement, like a watchtower, or maybe like a guiding lighthouse for those who left their native places and don't want to forget their identity. Once more triumphant in its fight against night, the sun casts a fairy tale light over the land of Mehedinți covered with snow. Stan's Peak, or the Nice Rock as it is also called, the highest peak of Mehedinți, doesn't seem at all surprised by the frost that took over its space. For Lake Zaton, now just a frozen bed, the winding spring water is only a remembrance, but also a hope for the spring to follow. Winters in the region are generally mild and not very frosty, due to the influence of the Mediterranean climate that comes from the south. We rediscover winter in the region of the Danube Hollows, more beautiful and eager to show it. Towards evening, the sun reduces its midday heat and envelops the Danube in a warm and soft light. Over here, where the Danube storms the mountain, bends and furiously struggles between the rocky walls, the water rarely freezes from one bank to the other. The natives say that this happens only in 10, maybe 15 years, and even then you can't just walk on it. Mraconia Bay changed overnight into a huge ice mirror, but also into a colossal pair of pliers, which crushed whatever still floated on the water. The Danube's guard, Tricule Fortress, still watches sternly over the river. If you watch attentively, you can still spot at the back of the worn-out ramparts the profile of a watchman scanning the stretch of water. The bridge, even if made of ice, will always unite people, and those trying to destroy it will be punished. Mehedinți has always built bridges for the people wishing to cross them in order to discover it and, why not, love it.